So it's now a week since the wedding actually took place, and I've been through and processed the images, so I guess I've got a bit of a feel now for how it went. I guess first thing is just some general points. We'll come on to the flash situation in a minute. It's actually called I think it's called LM3 little flash that mounts on the top of the EM1 was brilliant and much needed. Needed a lot more than I was expecting. So if I go through a little bit of the timeline for the day, you'll see why I think it was turned out to be pretty much essential. So it was quite a long day. Started at about 8:30 in the morning when I arrived at the bride's house to do things like photograph the makeup and hair and stuff like that. I'd been to their house before just to check out the room that it was going to be done in and stuff like that, and I thought the light would be okay. And I thought, the makeup person would want good light as well. And whilst that was true, it wasn't really enough light for me. So I did use the little flash in a bounce kind of fill-in bounce situation, and it worked really well. But I would have really struggled without that little flash. Surprisingly, this little thing, it's got something like a guide number of 9. Which is like, it can provide good light up to 9 meters. So it is surprisingly versatile and powerful. And it was much needed. So that was the first thing, I guess, was I was surprised how much that came in really useful. I set up the EPL8 in the corner of the room to do some video of me actually doing the photography. And I did get a couple of clips, but one thing that went wrong on the day was that EPL8, I'd set it to start videoing, and then I'd go and do some stuff. I'd go back to the camera to see how it was doing, and it would have stopped. And I thought, there's something odd going on here. And I checked the menus that there was no limit on the recording time. You can set limits to the recording time on that thing. There was no limit set. I set that the camera wasn't set to go to sleep after a certain amount of time, and it wasn't. I thought several times this happened, and I thought there's something odd going on here, and I sort of kind of gave up on it eventually and just left it, because obviously I had other things I needed to concentrate on. Checking it out later, what I found was I'd put the biggest memory card I've got, which is a 128GB card, in that camera. And it was a card I'd got with a camera, which I had bought secondhand. I think it actually came with this G80. And that card is faulty. It will not... it gets to a point where it just shuts down and... looked at the card. I recovered what was on the card, but the card now can't even be formatted in a camera. So there's a fault on that card. So... lesson here, everything you're going to use on a shoot like that, you've got to test it in advance. Now, I've been doing testing with with the EM1 using the flash and stuff like that, both flashes that I used. So I knew, that was my main concern, was that the flash I wasn't well prepared from a flash perspective. But it turned out that I got tripped up by this memory card in the EPL8, not on something critical, because that was a thing for me, rather than a thing for the couple on the day. However, So after the hair and makeup, about 11 in the morning, it was to drive to a local-ish pub to pick up the wedding car and the bride's parents. And the weather was kind of overcast and gloomy at this point, but we took the opportunity to take as many pictures there as we could, with a couple of small groups as well, because you just don't know what the weather's going to do later in the day, and it was forecast to be changeable. So took a few photos there. Then on to the registry office in the centre of Petersfield for 12:30. Obviously the photos there, both outside before we went in. Got a few, again, trying to get some groups while the weather was still on our side. Inside for the service, nice bright room, but not really bright enough away from the windows for doing decent photography. So again, the flash came in really useful there. Outside into the square after the service, and got some, I think, got some good family kind of portraits and things and groups out there. What was good was that the couple had taken my advice, and on the day they'd come with a list. So we had a list of the pictures that were required, and I managed to co-opt the help of a family member to kind of shout out the names of who was required. So I got on and did the photography, and my helper actually kind of made the groups coalesce as required, so that we could actually get the photography of the groups done. It would have been difficult if I hadn't had that help, so that was much appreciated. One lesson that came up on the way after we'd finished the photos outside the in the square at Petersfield, we then went off to pick up cars and stuff to get off to the reception. And one thing that was a good lesson here was, which I'd picked up from another photographer on a YouTube thing, was make sure, it's nice to try and relax and be calm, etc., but always be ready, because something that can happen, something that you want to capture can happen at any moment. And sure enough, I was walking back to the car park to pick my car up to go off to the reception. One of the sets of parents turned out were parked right next to me, and they were taking some of the children with them in the car, giving them a lift, one of the bridesmaids, flower girl type things, and there was a bit of piggyback action on the way to the car park. So it was just an impromptu moment, which was a bit of a laugh, and it was good to capture that. So just be aware that it was just good to be aware that this can happen at any moment. If I hadn't had a camera handy to hand, almost in my hand, then I'd have missed it. So then we were off to the reception, and again, whilst I'd seen the venue and I thought, oh yeah, lovely, good and light, because it was such an overcast day, flash was definitely order of the day again. So the flash came in really useful yet again. After reception, I went then, I actually stopped, because the evening party, if you like, was at a place that's local to where we live. I managed to stop in at home, and I downloaded everything I'd taken so far onto my PC before then getting off to the hotel where the evening party was going to be, and I did some helping out, blowing up balloons and the like. But we also managed to get out. It was almost dark the evening was due to start at 7 for guests arriving at about 7:30. About 6:30, 7:15. We went outside over to a viewpoint at the Devil's Punch Bowl and did a couple of photos out there of the couple. I needed the big flash for that, the big Sigma flash, and even then, it was almost pitch dark, so that was a real struggle, to be honest. It was a struggle to see the back of the flash unit itself, even though it's got a light on it. It was a struggle to actually set the thing up, but we managed, and I was grateful for having the big flash with me. That was the only time I used the big flash. For the evening reception, again, I used the little flash quite a lot, but obviously disco lights and things were just all over the place, so I felt that was a bit of a struggle, and I did some just ambient lighting stuff, and I was really worried about the different tints and different colours from the disco lighting. But actually, I found in processing the photos, you could actually work around that quite a lot, just using the white balance and the tint features in post-processing. So that worked out better than I was expecting, I think. And then showing that it was a long day, we finished up at about 11:15, something like that in the evening. So yeah, it was kind of 14-15 hour day without too much time to to relax or too much downtime there at all. So it's important to make sure you're drinking plenty of non-alcoholic drinks and getting snacks and things when you can, just to make sure that you don't run out of energy during the day. Ooh.